response to your question about Nirbhaya, and I'd like to call her Jyoti because her father chose to call her by her name and make that public, so I'd like to respect that. Yeah, her spirit does live on, but I don't understand the idea that it is only her spirit that one is talking about. The spirit of hundreds of women, yes, exactly, who have the guts to come out there and report cases, of women who continue to build their lives after having it, interrupted in the most disgusting manner by men who seem to think they wield power over them. All of their spirits are what make the movement for at this point of time. It isn't that somebody needs to be raped in order for that spirit to be experienced. Every woman who is told that she shouldn't walk out late at night because it's unsafe for her, every woman who finds her instincts on top guard the moment she's alone because she's afraid of what could happen to her, I think all of that is reflected in the protest we're seeing in Delhi today.
My name is Pranav Verma.
Okay.
So one thing that immediately followed this incident was a lot of mudslinging and blaming.
Okay.
Be it the Chief Minister of Delhi blaming the police commissioner or the vice versa.
Hold your mic properly and okay.
Right. So I think we as a society are equally to be blamed. We as people are to be blamed because the kind of sudden awakening that followed Jyoti's death, this TV show for example, the kind of sudden realization of what is happening is wrong, was unfortunately too late. Had we taken cognizance of such issues before, because this incident was not the first of its kind, the kind of brute that was involved in this incident was also not first of its kind. So had we realized this a bit earlier, probably Jyoti and hundreds of girls like her could be saved.
I think somewhere it's not just your family, but it's somewhere also how you construe the incidents of rape. So if you've noticed, we've all talked about how women have been raped. There's not too much discourse on how men rape. Why is it always that it's always in the passive that the woman got raped, thereby making her the passive component of a sexual act? You have to realize that essentially the violence is propagated from the male to the female, thereby the onus lies on him to stop the act.
What's your name?
My name is Mehul.
Okay.
Also, I think the protests which happened, while they were very noble in a way, they were also a bit misguided because they talked more about punishing the criminals than about preventing the crime.
Okay.
I read a lot of news articles about how some criminals were from some particular states and how there should be screening done and all of that. But that's not really important because, I mean, yes, you should punish the criminals, but it's very convenient to just punish the criminals and forget all about it. And, status quo maintains. There's nothing which actually changes. There's no constructive measure which is taken to prevent such incidents from happening in the first place. I mean, you just say, okay, he should be hanged. I attended a protest march where the person who got the most cheers said that they should be stoned to death. They should be stripped and stoned to death.
Yes, yes.
While, okay, I don't agree with that, first of all, but even if, suppose you do that, it won't help because right after this incident happened, there was a woman in a particular place who was gang raped and she was hanged on a tree, naked, and her body was left as a reminder.
Yes.
So all these protests, all these talking about stoning people, about killing them, about introducing the death penalty, which was a huge factor, which was a huge topic of discussion, it didn't help. So I think we should take a good look at ourselves first, including me. All of us should take a good look at ourselves first, think about how we think about women, think about girls in general, and then talk about how someone should be hanged and how someone should be stoned.
December 13th tarvata, antamundu yenno incidents, all these incidents we have already crossed with all these things. But after December 13th, daily one incident we are seeing in the newspapers, isn't it? So why like this? Yeah. Pass the mic, please.
I think to a certain degree what has happened is that people have found the courage to talk about it a little bit more, and there's a lot more public debate on the issue. And also because the media also realizes in terms of its coverage that people are more sensitive to the issue and wants to report it more. But one thing that I would, and I think a lot of us would have noticed in the kind of reporting that comes on the issue of rape is that this issue was highlighted a lot in the news. But a lot of the sexual violence that is perpetrated in this country is very systematic.
Yes.
A lot of it is linked to caste issues. A lot of it is linked to the atrocities committed in the areas where the Armed Forces Special Powers Act is in force. And I think that we need to be equally sensitized to that kind of systematic violence at the same time while addressing singular instances of rape.
Yeah, you can.
Adding to that, I would just like to say that when we understand sexual violence, we need to construe it much more comprehensively. It doesn't necessarily need to conclusively mean just rape. It can also mean non-contact sexual abuses, as in like sexual harassment, wherein like when somebody uses abusive language against you. So I think there is a huge requirement to sensitize people about how we understand sexual violence in general as such.
Yeah. What's your name?
Sapna.
Swapna. Do you want to say? Yeah.
I'm
What's your name?
Karthik.
Karthik.
Yeah, my point is that firstly one must understand what is rape. Rapes do not happen because a woman was dressed provocatively, whatnot, other reasons as the media portrays it to be. Rape is, deriving from Purvi's point, rape is power, is basically, the worst, an expression of dominance of power.
Yeah.
It happens, in urban areas, it happens as a tool of expression of caste power, religious, domination. That's how rape happens. And again, I guess the point of the whole discussion here would be that it's the dominant, party, the dominant, whatever, the power wielded.
Yeah.
That has to be stopped somewhere. Mostly it's men. And
Yeah. Okay. Even is it possible that the dominant will be female? That we want actually. Anybody?
well, I'd not like to.
Anybody? Yeah.
I don't know if the question is really whether the woman can be dominant, and maybe there are instances.
No, actually, I want to talk about the equality.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if there are enough instances of reported instances of women raping men, but what I think we should take away from this point is whether we should make rape gender neutral, because it is true that there is a multiplicity of gender identities in this country. There are the coatis, there are gay people, there are effeminate men who might also be regularly and systematically raped by the armed forces and the police and by anyone. So we also need to be alert to those kinds of situations of rape, and I think the Criminal Law Amendment Bill of 2012 in making rape gender neutral is on the right track, because we need to identify these diverse.
Yeah. Sir, Madabuchi Sridhar garu, మీరు చెప్పండి అసలు అంటే ఒకసారి ఈవ్ టీజింగ్ అనేది ఎవరు చేసినప్పుడు అప్పుడే కనుక కఠినంగా శిక్షిస్తే వాళ్ళని అది ముందు జరగకుండా ఉంటుంది కదా, అలా కాకుండా వాళ్ళకేదో ఒక చిన్న పనిష్మెంట్ ఇచ్చేసి ఒక 50 రూపాయల ఫైన్ ఏదో వేసేసి పంపిస్తున్నారు. ఇది ఎంతవరకు కరెక్ట్ అంటారు?
ఇప్పుడు మన మిత్రులంతా చెప్పిన ఒక ముఖ్యమైన అంశం ఏంటంటే, నేరం జరగగానే శిక్ష వేసి చేతులు దులుపుకోవడం కాదు, ఈ నేరానికి కారణం అవుతున్న పురికొల్పుతున్న పరిస్థితుల్ని చాలా వరకు మనం నివారించకపోతే ఈ నేరాలు ఇట్లా జరుగుతూనే ఉంటాయి అనేది ఇక్కడ ప్రధానమైన అంశం. వీధిలో రక్షణ, ఆ రక్షణ ఉల్లంఘించిన వాడికి శిక్ష, ఈ రెండు సైమల్టేనియస్గా సమాంతరంగా జరగాలి. జరగకపోతే ప్రమాదం, సమాజానికే ప్రమాదం, సమాజంలో భద్రతకు ప్రమాదం. మనం ఏదైతే మన అమ్మాయిని ఏ విధంగా చూస్తున్నామో, మన చెల్లెల్ని మనం ఏ విధంగా చూస్తున్నామో కుటుంబంలో, ఆ బయట మనం తిరిగే మన సోదరితో సమానంగా ఆడవాళ్ళని చూడకపోవడం, లేదా వాళ్ళని గౌరవించకపోవడం, ఆ తర్వాత ఏదో హేళన చేసి తక్కువ చేసి అవమానించి లేదా చాలా అసభ్యకరమైన పదజాలంతో నిందించి ఇటువంటి మనస్తత్వాన్ని ఎంకరేజ్ చేస్తూ పోతూ ఉంటే ఇటువంటి నేరాలకు, పెద్ద నేరాలకు దారితీస్తాయని. చిన్న నేరాలు అరికట్టకపోతే పెద్ద నేరాలు జరుగుతాయి. ఇఫ్ యూ డోంట్ ప్రివెంట్ స్మాల్ క్రైమ్స్, బిగ్గర్ క్రైమ్స్ విల్ బి కమిటెడ్. సో గవర్నెన్స్ ఇష్యూస్ కూడా ఉంటాయి ఇందులో, అంటే పరిపాలనా సంబంధమైన అంశాలు కూడా ఉంటాయి. అవన్నీ మీరు చేయకపోతే పెద్ద నేరాలు జరిగే ప్రమాదం ఉంది. భద్రత అనేది ప్రతి చిన్న ఒక దీపం పెట్టడం దగ్గర నుంచి మొదలవుతుంది భద్రత. అట్లా ఉంటుందన్నమాట ఆ సమాజాన్ని, అటువంటి భద్రమైన సమాజాన్ని.
ఇప్పుడు అదే అంటున్నాం, మనం ఇంటి నుండి మార్పు రావాలి, తర్వాత సమాజానికి విస్తరించాలి అనుకున్నాం కదా, ఇప్పుడు ఈ మార్పు అనేది కేవలం ఇంట్లో సమాజంలో వస్తే సరిపోతుందా, చట్టంలో కూడా రావాలంటారు కదా?
చట్టంలో మార్పు ఎప్పుడు వస్తుంది అంటే మనం అందరం మారాలని కోరుకున్నప్పుడు. ఇప్పుడు చట్టంలో ఉన్న లోపాలే ఏమిటో తెలియదు మనకి, ఆ చట్టాన్ని అప్లై చేయడం కూడా తెలియదు. అండ్ వీ డోంట్ నో వెదర్ ది లా ఇస్ పర్ఫెక్ట్ ఆర్ నాట్, వీ డోంట్ నో వెదర్ వీఆర్ ఇంప్లిమెంటింగ్ లా ప్రాపర్లీ ఆర్ నాట్, అండ్ వీ డోంట్ నో వెదర్ ఇట్ ఈస్ ఎఫెక్టివ్లీ ప్రివెంటింగ్ ఆర్ ప్రొవైడింగ్ సెక్యూరిటీ ఆర్ నాట్, and we are not in a position to change our mindset and social environs. Now, how do you think that law alone, if a change in the law alone, will affect the entire society? అన్నీ సమంగా జరగాలి. మీరు ఇంకొక మాట అన్నారు, ఇంట్లో మార్పు వచ్చిన తర్వాత సమాజంలో మార్పు వచ్చిన తర్వాత చట్టం. అట్ట కాదు, అన్నీ సమాంతరంగా జరగాలి, ఒకేసారి జరగాలి. అంత టైం లేదు. మీరు ఆ మార్పు జరిగితేనే ఈ మార్పు జరుగుతుంది, ఇంట్లో మన మైండ్ సెట్ మారితే తర్వాత ప్రజల మైండ్ సెట్ మారుతుంది అనేట్లా ఉండదు. అన్నీ ఒకేసారి ఎప్పటికప్పుడు ఎవరి బాధ్యత వాళ్ళు నిర్వహిస్తూ ఉంటేనే సమాజంలో భద్రత అనేది ఉంటుంది. ఇది భద్రతకు సంబంధించిన సమస్య, హింసకు సంబంధించిన సమస్య. ఇట్ ఇస్ అన్ ఇష్యూ పర్టైనింగ్ టు వైలెన్స్ అగేన్స్ట్ వన్ హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్ బై అనదర్ హ్యూమన్ బీయింగ్. జెండర్ ఈస్ జస్ట్ an accidental involvement. So we must look at it as a crime which is very, very violent, and it is affecting the integrity of a human being. That's what we have to understand. We are bothered about penetration, whether there is a penetration or not, whether there is a consent or not. We are talking about all these things, but we are forgetting that human integrity is violated. That's what we have to think about.
Okay, Suresh Misra garu, what do you say about this? The same penalty and all those things, the change in the law.
I believe more than all that, I think people have to realize, and that you shouldn't do something that is going to something which is going to harm somebody, and this harm is not only at a bodily level, it also damages the soul to some extent, and soul, I believe, is neutral, gender neutral. Soul does not have any gender.
Yes.
Okay, and the only way I see forward is education, which has a major role, because this is the only medium by which you can influence minds together, a large pool of minds.
Yes.
And I'm talking about education right from the say school level up to the research level institutions, where you get a chance to mold many minds, and once that can happen, I think we don't need anything else. People automatically will change.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Next. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, you asked about what you would want in terms of change in the law, right?
Yes.
And I think as a law university, it makes sense for us to say that just change in the law doesn't help anybody. There are a whole bunch of policy decisions that the government needs to take. In fact, just changing the law is a simple measure. At this point of time, if they introduce a bill in Parliament, nobody would debate it. It would be passed for sure. And what after that? We, in a recommendation to the Verma committee that was set up, had a whole host of policy-based requirements that we think that the government should put in place.
Okay.
Some of the prominent ones being that when you have open spaces, you have public spaces, you make them safe for people. There's simple ways of doing that. Things like lighting, things like sanitation. I mean, we'd look through a lot of rape cases over a period of 10 years, and you will find as a recurring pattern that people who do not have toilets in their homes are often raped when they're defecating outside, because they're alone then. There is no evidence gathered at that point of time. So what you will find is that they are vulnerable. But you don't ever connect building toilets to stopping rape. Right? So these are the sort of things in terms of policy measures that we want to have in place. Things like community policing, as Rupali mentioned. Things like blue lights that you have in America. So you basically have an emergency button at different points in a public space. So if you find yourself unsafe,
yes,
you press that button, and that's connected to a
Department of Police,
right?
Or
So
like
that would come and give you immediate support.
Yes.
Things like safe walks. So you have groups of individuals who say that we run this as an NGO. If you need to go somewhere alone and you need somebody to walk you to that place, then you call us and we'll help you. Things like that are connected to university credit systems. So these are the sort of small policy decisions that actually make places safe for women. And I think that's what we need to be looking at more than just changing laws.
Yeah, very good. Anybody? Yes. What's your name?
I'm Ayman.
Yeah.
Adding to what Anindita was saying, what is also important is that you acknowledge the law's contribution to sexual violence. For instance, the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. It provides an absolute immunity to every armed forces personnel posted in a disturbed area. Now, what does this result in? Manipur and Kashmir are just two small, statistical points in India's history when we just look at sexual violence through the fact that there were villages together that had no females left who weren't sexually assaulted by armed personnel. Or even if you look at the small provisions that the IPC provides for, the fact that rape is defined only as peno-vaginal intercourse. So you're excluding even worse bestial acts that could possibly happen. For instance, in the Gujarat riots, there were not so many peno-vaginal rapes as there were insertion of foreign objects, which has a maximum penalty of just 10 years, and which would also include a stronger evidence to be, to prove that there was actually sexual violence. What is required is, I think, beyond just policy measures, a correction in our legal systems. And that should not be taken away. While we look at patriarchy as something that we must confront, we must also confront the patriarchy in our legal systems.
Okay. Can you say about fast track courts? Yeah.
జనరల్గా మనము ఈ మామూలు కోర్ట్స్ నేను త్రిశాల మామూలు కోర్ట్స్లో ఎంత సమయం పడుతుంది ఒక ఇలాంటి ఒఫెన్సెస్కి స్పెసిఫిక్గా చాలా సమయం పడుతుంది మన న్యాయం జరగాలి అంటే దీనివల్ల కూడా ఆల్సో ఏంటంటే ఒక అమ్మాయికి తనకి ఎలాంటి ప్రశ్నలు అడుగుతారు ట్రయల్లో ఇవన్నీ చాలా మనం గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాల్సిన విషయాలు అనమాట ఈ డిస్కషన్కి ఇంపార్టెంట్గా. అయితే ఇప్పుడు నా అభిప్రాయం ఏంటంటే మనము ఈ ఫాస్ట్ ట్రాక్ కోర్ట్స్ ద్వారా తొందరగా ప్రభావితంగా న్యాయం జరగాలి అనే దాని గురించి మనం ఫాస్ట్ ట్రాక్ కోర్ట్స్ పెట్టాలని నేను అనుకుంటున్నాను. ఇప్పుడు ఢిల్లీలో కూడా మొదలు పెడుతున్నారు, చాలా ఇప్పుడు ఇండియా మొత్తము మనం స్టార్ట్ చేయాలని నేను అనుకుంటున్నాను. దీంతో ఏంటంటే మనకి ఎవరికైనా
ప్రమాదం జరిగితే లేకపోతే ఓకే
అందుకని దీనికి ఇంకా కొంచెం ప్రభావితంగా ఉంటుంది, న్యాయం జరుగుతుంది అని మహిళలు కనిపించాలి. ఇలాంటి వాళ్ళు ఒఫెన్సెస్ చేసే వాళ్ళకు కూడా అయ్యో ఇంత తొందరగా మనకి శిక్ష పడిపోతుంది అనే భావం కలగాలని ఈ ఫాస్ట్ ట్రాక్ కోర్ట్స్ ఉండాలని నేను కోరుకుంటున్నాను.
Yes, good. Anybody? Okay, yeah. What's your name? Rupali. Yeah.
I'd just like to mention some other legal suggestions, some reform in the law. So while we've discussed expanding the definition of rape, we also would like to strongly recommend that the exception of marital rape is removed from the Indian Penal Code. Currently, rape within a marriage is not recognized except in very specific contexts. And so we want that, and we strongly feel that that exception has no place in the law. And
yeah. So one of the recommendations that we have made is taking from what Professor Han was saying, that in America, the way, even after rape, the way the victim is treated is very different. So one thing in the Indian evidentiary system is that there's something called the two-finger test, and which is something which can be said to be really, really intrusive to a woman who's already been raped, let alone someone who's not, right? Okay. So here, two fingers are inserted in the vagina of a woman just to